Good afternoon, respected Judah, Adisha, thesis committee members, and other faculty members. My thesis topic is Syrian Christian Living History Museum. It's located in Palayu. So, a Living History Museum is a museum in which all the building and the surroundings are all to the life scale, and people use it and interact with the medium to understand the culture and tradition of the museum. So, the Syrian Christian Community Museum is a museum in which the community of Syrian Christians are projected, because it's a lost culture, and it is also a very important culture in the case of Kerala, because they were a very prominent community in Kerala and still are, but the traditions and the cultures is deteriorating, and hence there's a need for Syrian Christian Community Museum in Kerala. Also, the fact that St. Thomas had arrived in Kerala in AD 52, and he had built a church, few churches, 7 churches in Kerala, and one among them is the Palayu Church, and it's the most visited church in Kerala, and also stands as a museum. So this living museum can be incorporated as part of the whole surrounding, and can be used as a living history museum to project the culture and tradition of the Syrian Christians in Kerala. So the Syrian Christian community had evolved during the time of 4000 BC, when St. Thomas had arrived in Kerala and built some of the 7 churches, the first church being the Matuma Pontifical Shrine in Kodungalur. And thus he had built the church, and this led to the evolution of the Syrian Christians, and they became rich economically and had certain rights, because they were the Namudri community which got converted into Christians by St. Thomas. So they had trading rights. They became enormous in terms of wealth. They had plantations, coffee, tea, and rubber was planted in Syrian homesteads. They practiced embroidery. This led to the whole transformation of Syrian Christians and brought in the culture from different aspects, which is Mozart's and St. Thomas' arrival, which led to art and literature, which talks about St. Thomas. This leads to the ballads and songs that are sung about St. Thomas. And then they got the trading rights from the kings, because they were considered equal to the Nambutri community. And then there was a Portugal influence when Vasco da Gama had come, and a certain community had gone to the Latin Catholic community. There was foreign resistance, which led to the Conan Kurish Oath and had led to the division of the Syrian Christian community. And these were leading to the divisions in Syrian Christian communities, yet their culture and traditions are valued and are same in many various aspects. Coming to the literature review, which is about a typical Syrian Christian church, there is certain, basically a church is always oriented in the east-west direction, and they're always at a height. And coming to Syrian Christian church, they're always next to the pond, or always next to the seaside or riverside, sorry, and they're always at a height. And this is what is the basic orientation of a Syrian Christian church. And the facade is always linked to the outer boundary of the church, and it forms one whole holistic building. So the facade is also part of the outer boundary of the wall. And coming to the plan, they have a Haikala Kestroma. Pomugam is a front yard porch. And then we have a sacristy, and Madbaha. Madbaha is the altar. So this is the access to the most divine. So even the elevation is in such a way that the access and the elevation goes to the most highest divine, that is the Madbaha. Because the church has certain influences from Dutch and British architecture, there's a form of buttresses for structural strength also, which was added. And this, like Syrian Christian church, is an amalgam of traditional Hindu architecture and Dutch and British influences. So coming to the microclimate, sloping eaves, it's all about the traditional architecture in Kerala. The eaves and the verandas and the porch enables to regulate the microclimate. And the Pomugam is the portico present in the west side, also called Natakashala. So the roof is also either rib vaulted or laterite vaulted or truncated pyramidal canopy. And coming to the Syrian Christian house, the Syrian Christian house is basically a same as a Nalugette. It's actually a unit of the Nalugette called the Kootuvettu. So this is how there's always an ara. Ara is where the grains are usually stored. So they have an ara, veranda, courtyard, storage, kitchen, and they have a courtyard for regulating the microclimate and some extended Syrian Christian houses. So this is a Akara house in Pudupalli, Kottayam, and Syrian Christian house in Dakshina Chitra. So the Akara house in Kottayam is a larger house, it's a 200-year-old house, and they have this huge courtyard, and the rooms are all to the side with an Ara Nera on the side where they store boats on the lower floor, and on the higher floor they store grains. It's all made of wood, so and it's also regulates it's according to the climate, and it's cold for the body. And then we come to the special topic. The special topic is about the architectural features in the church and houses. They are taking the orientation into consideration, the window sizes, the floor planning, the Pumugam, three-story windows. Three-story windows are not only regulates light, it also regulates, focuses the light onto the altar and to a aligned path. And this reduces light glare from entering into the building as well. And site planning is also based on an east-west direction, and that axis is always taken. They always have a symmetrical proportion to the buildings, and the Syrian Christian house features have been taken to regulate the microclimate and the house planning and the functions of these places. Coming to the literature case study, it's the Living and Learning Design Center, Kutch. This is a case study in Kutch, Gujarat, and basically this is also living history museum. Coming to the case studies, we have Living and Learning Design Center, Kutch, National History Museum of African American, Delhi Haat, Dakshina Chitra, Syrian Christian Museum, Kakinada. So the LLDC is located in Kutch. It's a living museum. It is for the community in Kutch, the embroidery community, which is indigenous to Kutch and are losing the traditional embroidery techniques, and hence this museum was conceived. The National History Museum of African Americans is a museum that talks about the oppression of African Americans in America. And the museum follows one such design which tells the story of the oppression of the Americans. Delhi Haat is a crafts center which also promotes crafts, music, and other cultural activities within the Delhi, projecting the Delhi community. So that is also a living museum in itself. Dakshina Chitra is also a living museum which talks about the South Indian culture and the architecture and art in South India. Syrian Christian Museum, Kakinada, is a museum located in Kakinada of the Syro-Malabar Church. It's also a living museum, but it's also a museum, but it's not a living museum. So about the site zoning, coming to LLTC, the site zoning, it's in such a way that the admin block is far from the entrance. The entrance is restricted with the parking at the front, and this does not hamper the activities within the site, and also provides a lot of buffer throughout the site. So this helps to in the acoustic treatment of the museum. Also, we find that the admin block contains all the amenities such as a restaurant, cafe. So any visitor who's passing by and does not want to visit the museum can use these facilities. The National History Museum is one museum as such. So there's no segregation of public or private spaces because it's one building and you enter it through the ramp. The Delhi Haat has multiple entryways, and this enables proper circulation, and the radial design enables one to view every single part of the center from different ways, also regulates the circulation flow. Dakshina Chitra has one entryway and a different service pathway. But the pedestrian pathways are only present within the site, and they are radial and in such a way that it leads from one type of architecture to the other according to the zones. The Syrian Christian Museum is also one building, and is also a proposed building that's about to be constructed, and there's an existing building which was a house which is modified into a museum. Coming to the site planning, the admin block is present here, and then you have all the facilities inside. The ground floor plan. So as you can see that there's an auditorium in the ground floor, as well as all the shops are all present towards the side. And there's one exhibition area. So as you go in, there's a small gallery space, and then you have an exhibition area coming to it. So each of these spaces, it's in multiple layers, the building, but it's in such a way that there's a two-sided pathway. One is for the community, which is entering this way, and one is for the visitors. So that's how the flow is regulated. So the NIMHAC, it includes 11 interactive exhibition galleries and education center, theater, auditorium, cafe, store, and offices. And coming to Delhi Haat, the different centers and plazas are present so that the people can the circulation flow is enabled. The private and public spaces are distributed without buffers. The majority of the area is open to public and is for the public. Dakshin Chitra, there are semi-private public spaces, different segregations of spaces are present. There's headquarters, living headquarters, that is the only place which is a private place. The rest are all semi-private or public. So, but you can only enter the museum by getting a ticket, and every part of the site is a part of the museum. Coming to the museum Kakinad, there's a long lobby in every floor, which is the one that regulates the the capacity of people that's coming in. We also find that there's three core ways for people to go, and the flow of people throughout the museum is vertical and not horizontal. As you can see, people will be moving up and down this way because all the exhibition spaces come vertically, as in they're horizontal, but they're connected vertically. So, but this kind of planning is not ideal because visitors tend to become tired climbing stairs or going up the ramps, because it's better to have museum or exhibition spaces placed horizontally than vertically. So the inference is huge lobbies for holding visitors is ideal because you can contain the capacity. Separation of pedestrian and vehicular entry, the public and private zones to be segregated based on the type of museum. Coming to climate response, each of these museums use their own indigenous techniques and materials to deal with the kind of architecture. Indigenous traditional construction techniques and materials are used. This is the most ideal as it is climate responsive. The use of vegetation courtyards and mortar bodies to regulate microclimate. Even the facade treatment, they use indigenous materials and techniques. And this is, in the case of a living history museum, we can only use architecture features that reflect the kind of architecture that was present and the kind of techniques that were used in construction during those days. Coming to the site analysis, the site is located in Palayur. Church is St. Thomas Siro-Malabar Church, Palayur, Chavakkad. It's situated near Guruvayur in Thrissur, and hence the site fits in the pilgrimage route of Kerala. So even if as the whole tourist circuit is formed, this site can also be part of the circuit. Moreover, this is already a part of the circuit of the pilgrimage of St. Thomas Christians. So the timeline of the site, St. Thomas had arrived in Palayur in AD 52. He came to Palayur by boat. The site still contains this kind of area which is believed that he had arrived by boat. Then he established the cross in the church. The church was later established in 1580. In AD 54, he baptized Brahmins in Palayur. Families including Pagalomattam Palayur becomes important. Christian centers along Kollam and Kodungalur. The population statistics of Chavakkad, there's more females than males casually employed. So the kind of people in Chavakkad are more educated. There's a higher female sex ratio, and they're more employed. And people in Chavakar will definitely be a part, and they're also higher Christian community, Syrian Christian community in Chavakar. So it's most ideal to have a Syrian living history museum here. So the site, it includes a church, the entryway, the main entryway. There's another entryway as well. This is a school that's present, and that's the part of the school. There's a church present, and there's a parsonage with all the other facilities of the church. This is where St. Thomas is believed to have arrived by boat, and this is another place which has the tallest statue of St. Thomas in Asia. Um, so these are the side pictures. As you can see, this is the highest statue of St. Thomas in Asia. This is the pedestrian pathway. This is cemetery here. This is cemetery here. And these are the two ponds that are still conserved, and there's a presence of a already existing museum in the site. But we are considering it. We're not considering it in the design, but we are replicating it in the design. So the church is the highest massing, and it is to be preserved, and in such a way that the whole place, the church has the highest massing and the height in the whole of the site. These two water bodies are to be conserved and are also part of the site. So according to the tourist circulation, you find that church is active during Sundays, and that's where you have the church members, and this is the entryway for the church members. They also go to the parsonage and leave. The tourists have a different circuit. They come and visit the museum. They see the other installations here, and they also see the church and leave. The school students only enter through the front entry and go to the school, and as well as to the other. These are where the toilet facilities and all are present. So the whole idea of a living history museum is to interchange, and it's an educational medium to transfer values, culture, learning through different ways and methods. So this kind of an experience is what makes a living museum. The people can experience a living museum mainly due to the presence of the church. The activities surrounding the church enables one to understand it well. The concept, design, development, and the zoning, it should be in such a way that this church has the massing and the view of the church is not disrupted. The whole view towards the church from these two sides and forming the east-west axis to be maintained. In this way, in this view, we find that we cannot have much buildable structures here. So it's always ideal to have a parking area in this side. And also you can see that the two ponds are to be conserved, and hence we can form a whole loop throughout the museum, and we should use this in the design. The whole east-west axis of the church to be used as the road axis, and to develop other roads and pathways based on this axis and not disturbing this axis. There's also a need for a parish hall to conduct wedding ceremonies, because there's an existing auditorium which is there outside the site but is not insufficient. So that is the reason why we need a parish hall, and the most ideal location for the parish hall would be here, because it's next to the church and it's also next to the entry. And so after the wedding, people can leave easily and not hamper the activities of the museum. So the parish hall is to be placed here. The loop is to be taken. You can use views towards this church and from the church to the side because of the pond, and we can use it as a recreational space. This area is ideal for parking, as we do not want to disturb the views to the church. There's a museum building that's to be placed here, because this is the most better place compared to the views of the church. So it gets views to the church as well as it does not disturb the massing of the church. And there's a separate access also in such a way that people can enter and leave the museum because the presence of a restaurant and souvenir handicraft shops that's placed here. So the museum will contain an embroidery unit, workshops, and galleries, exhibition spaces, and the parking space. And we have the parish hall and the recreational spaces. Coming to the site layout, this is we have to added two entryways to the site. This is the parking area in front of the church, and it's used to allow the views to the church. And we have another parking entryway, which is used for the parish hall as well as for the restaurant building. This is the museum building, and we have added a portion of the a model of the Syrian Christian house, which is exactly like how it is an extended with an extended courtyard or a pond. And we have added pavilions and forming a landscaped area and conserving the pond in this site to form the closed loop. The loop is connected via a pomegum or a portico with wooden columns and timber roofs. And these are the buildings that are present: the restaurant building, museum building, admin building, parish hall, arched windows, and the arched pavilion. And this is the prototype of the model of the house. This is the admin building, which is present in this area with extended portico, lobby areas, cloakroom, reception rooms, and the workstation and areas for the staff working. And this leads to the other extended portico. There's also a pomegum for the museum building, two lobbies. There's a service core with toilets and the service rooms, electrical rooms, cloakrooms as well. We entered to the gallery spaces. It's according to the history of Syrian Christians. There's a lobby area which and there's a library present here. So anybody who wants to visit the library without entering the museum can enter via this area. We go to the first floor where there's embroidery spaces and the workshop for the embroidery spaces, and it's designed in such a way that you view the gallery spaces from the balcony. So this is the same concept as that of the church, where the focus of the building is on the most highest place, and it's also given attention. And this is why how we have gallery spaces which view other gallery spaces with the help of balconies. These are given wooden flooring for aesthetics and for the separation of spaces. We have movable MDF panels which can be used for displays as well as wall partitions. And the type of roofing is mangrove tiles, and we have column beam and tile structure according to the pitch of the roof and the length and width of the building. And coming to the parish hall, which is an arched portico or an arcashala around the building, showing the prominence of Syrian Christian architecture. This is also in the way of the church balcony, where you view the areas. It's the same way it's planned vertically and horizontally. So the banquet hall and balcony banquet hall is projecting and viewing the area, which is here. This is based on the architecture of the church. And there's a core service area which can also, with the toilets, which can be accessed from outside. There's a storage and kitchen area as well. This is the restaurant and souvenir shop space. This is also open to anybody who wants to access the restaurant. This restaurant space is up as well. And there's a handicraft shop, souvenir shop, and cloth shop on the ground floor with a central courtyard. And the kind of roofing is basically a sloping roof which is fragmented, and this kind of roofing enables water harvesting, and this is used for landscaping and water percolation. This is the area which is used as a model of the Syrian Christian house with the pond area. Thank you.